Hello and welcome back to part 6 of my One Book July challenge for this year, which is following along with Mind the Gap, filling in the gaps in my January to June Traveller's Notebook weekly vertical insert. So just flicking back through the pages now to check what we've got up to. We've done spaces for photos, I've done background paint, I've done trying to put as much journaling in as I can that I can remember, which isn't much, but in mind. And then in the last one we did date stickers or date numbers across the top. So the next stage I want to tackle is more background imagery, and it's going to be collage. So it's going to be things pulled out from magazines, flyers, random books that I've decided to take apart, things like that. So going through my pile of things that I'm going to cut up or consider cutting up, I have a series of freebie magazines that came through the door from a couple of memberships that I have or have had over the past few years. These are heading for the recycling bin anyway, so I'm quite happy to go through them and pull out any nice pictures and background textures and things before I do that. Next up I have a few books and things that I am considering cutting up. I bought them for the imagery. I bought this book particularly for the imagery. It's very nostalgic from my childhood. But I haven't decided whether I'm actually going to cut it up or not yet. This is a book which I got free on the cover of a Japanese magazine last year. It's actually one of the illustrators that Hobonichi uses, Keiko Shibata. Then I've got an old knitting pattern that I never use because I can't use knitting patterns, and a children's 2023 Nature Almanac. That one I'm definitely cutting up because it is it's out of date. It's from 2023. I've got a random selection of images that have come off my notice board, old images that I was using for inspiration that I don't need anymore. So a whole stack of those, random bits of collage paper. This is a calendar a friend sent me from Japan because it has the most gorgeous illustrations on. I got this magazine. So this is the magazine I bought last summer. This is another one I got. That was one my friend sent. I don't know if I'll be able to cut those up, to be honest, but I put them on the pile anyway. And then I have like a soft toy from the 1970s leaflet, which I think is just brilliant. I love the crazy luminous letters on the front there. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to cut these up. So I actually don't in this video. I can't bear to do it, so I just put them on the side. But I pretty much everything else, all the loose things I definitely use. I also don't cut up that little Keiko Shibata book because I just can't. And I don't think I do the Usborne first words in French book either. But everything else gets cut up. So I start off with the easy thing. Start off with the freebies, since I know they're going in the bin anyway. Quite happy to start cutting those ones up. So I don't film me going through them all because I think it would be intensely boring, because I don't think I have all that much interesting to say. I don't think I'm a very interesting person. So I don't know, I don't think you want to hear me whittering away for half an hour while I cut up a bunch of magazines. So I am going to skip. I'm going to show you a little bit of my process, but not obviously the entire thing. I mean, essentially it's just flipping through the pages and then deciding which pictures you like. It's pretty straightforward, very relaxing, quite a really nice sort of low pressure kind of activity to do late at night when you're a bit tired perhaps. So I highly recommend doing this if you want to have a little bit more sort of ephemera to work with in your notebooks. Now I am aware that my traveller's notebook is very small and a lot of these pictures are large, but even if I don't use them in the Traveller's Notebook, I actually use them for another random project, which I am going to share at the end of the series, a random collage project that I did with all the extra bits and pieces. So that's going to be right at the end of this, not at the end of this video, it's going to be the end of the series because it's kind of a bit of a random, what am I trying to say, bonus thing. So I'm going to put it in the last video. You can see here that I got some really beautiful like nature photos from this National Trust Museum. It's obviously a charity that deals with properties and land, so they have a lot of beautiful images in the magazine. Really love that one, Massive Field of Sunflowers. I don't know what I'm going to use that for. I still have that actually. I haven't used that yet because I think it's probably going to be one of my precious pieces I'm hoarding for something. I might use it on the cover of a notebook or something. I'm not sure yet. There's cute illustrations in this magazine. I didn't actually pull that one out, but I do have another one. Generally speaking, the magazines you buy will contain images of things that you like, so it's just such a fun thing to do, to go through and pull things out. I don't actually buy very many magazines. I think it's because I just don't take the time to sit down and read them. I mean, my reading habit is absolutely terrible these days. I'd hardly read anything, hardly read books. I tend to do computer games if I need just to wind down and relax and not think too much about my life. I tend to play computer games, things like that. So I don't tend to read so much these days, which is a bit of a shame. They're very expensive as well these days, magazines, good lord. So understandably, because I think paper's gone up a huge amount and there's obviously a lot of work that goes into them. But yeah, I don't really buy them. But this exercise is actually making me think I might have an excuse, because if I start doing more sort of junk journal collagey things again, then that's an excuse, isn't it, to buy more magazines. So adding that to the stash from earlier, I've got myself a nice little bunch of sort of nature, trees, birds and flowers kind of collage papers, which is really good. So there's various things I decided not to cut up after all when I was doing this, but I did take apart this children's almanac from last year because there's a lot of dates in there that are specific to last year. It kind of follows along with the calendar, so all the festival dates are written in for that year, and they obviously change, so there's no point really keeping it going into the next year. So I do take this one apart, and it's an absolutely beautiful book. And I think with these books, if you're not going to keep them and read them again, that, you know, there's a huge amount of work gone into this. Whoever's done the illustrations, I mean, you know, they've taken so much time to do them all. So I feel like if you take the book apart and use the illustrations in your books, in your journals and things like that, obviously not for profit, just for your own personal pleasure, you're kind of honouring the effort that went into making the illustrations in the first place, if you know what I mean. And the same with the photography from the magazines and things. There's a lot of creative effort that's gone into doing these things, and I quite like the idea of not just throwing them in the bin and, you know, all that work in the bin. So yeah, that's my excuse for cutting them up. So I'm just showing you what I got from each month. So I got all sorts of different bits from January, from February, mixture of pictures. There's a few things with like words on that I thought I might use. May not use them in my traveller's notebook, but some of this stuff I'm thinking I can use in my Christmas journal, for example. When I get towards December, there's quite a few Christmassy bits and bobs. And I also just want to keep them. I just thought it'd be nice to keep them. They'll probably come in handy for something at some point. Especially the actual ones with the calendar months on. They're just such big, beautifully coloured illustrations that I wanted to keep the page with the month on from each month. Oh, I can't get my words out today. You know what I mean. I wanted to keep them in case I want to do something, a junk journal at some point, and then those could go on the pages at the start of each month. Not quite sure yet, but I shall keep them and see what happens. So this is the first time I bought a sort of an almanac type book. And I don't exactly know what an almanac is, but I assume it's sort of tied to the calendar, isn't it? A lot of almanacs do like horoscope type things. I don't know, things to do with nature and things like that. And I hadn't ever bought one before, but actually it is quite a decent way to get a lot of collage ephemera because it goes through all the seasons. You know, you have all the way from winter to spring to summer to autumn. So you get a really good variety of images for every season. So I might look out for these books again in the future, because obviously for the actual year that they're relevant to, you can read through them. We didn't actually get around to doing it, to be perfectly honest, with this book, but you could in theory sit and read the book through for the relevant year, and then at the end of it you could take all the images you want for your junk journals. So I will show you the ISBN of this book towards the end. You may be able to find one for this year with a different illustrator, I'm not sure. But yeah, I definitely recommend finding some sort of almanac, especially children's ones, because they tend to give you more illustrations, don't they? More beautiful images. So I might go and have a little Google, a little look on the internet for some other children's, what they're called, almanacs for future use, because it was really, really cute to do this. These pieces of red paper I'm putting to the side, they're already earmarked for my Christmas journal, same with these bits. I think they're both recipes, I can't remember now, but I kept them to the side because I might use them for something later on. So I'll just show the ISBN now, so the number that you can look up. If you want to find this specific book, then it is the ISBN number starting 978. On the top, the publisher is Nosy Crow, so I might have a look and see if they do a new one. I think it's, yes, it's published in collaboration with the National Trust as well. So yeah, got loads and loads of stuff from that book, so very happy about that. So I did decide not to cut these up. They're too precious. They're almost too full of amazing illustrations and things and all sorts of yumminess that I just can't bear to cut them up. I opened them and I had a flick through and I was just sort of overwhelmed with how much nice stuff is in here. So I couldn't bear to cut them up. So they've gone back on the shelf. So this magazine is called Moe and it is, I believe, published by one of the big children's book publishers in Japan. And it's jam-packed full of illustrations, articles, all sorts of yumminess from cover to cover, and I can't bear to cut it up. So I'm afraid those go back on the pile. Well, I'm not afraid, but I'm just explaining to you that I didn't cut them up, couldn't bear to do it. So they go back on my shelf for another day. And I also didn't use the knitting pattern. It's just too big. Couldn't bear to cut that up for my traveller's notebook. This book I also didn't use this time. Because I was thinking to myself, I'd use the little pictures around the edge. I could sort of cut out the little images that go around the border. If you haven't seen this book before, it's a classic children's book where you sort of look for the images in the pictures, and they're always in a different language. There's all different languages. I think they even do Japanese and things. And I remember having one when I was a kid and loving it, and I thought I would use the images for something, but I just feel like I've got plenty to work with here, so I'll save that one for another day. And you never know, my son actually might show interest in it at some point, so it lives another day. So in terms of choosing which images to put on which pages, I find that it takes me a little while to warm up to doing this, but eventually you sort of get into the swing of it and you get to the point where you don't really overthink it. That's the key thing to doing things like this, to putting stickers down, to putting collage paper down, is to just not overthink stuff. I do very similar to my paint technique, as in I look at the page and I see what colours are on there. Obviously you're also at this point looking at what spaces you have, because as I go on, obviously space is becoming more and more limited on the page, and it's a case of trying to find something that will actually just squeeze into the gaps. So I'm not going to show you hours and hours of footage of me doing this, going through each page, trying to decide what to put on, but essentially look at the page, see what colours you've got, see if there's any images that match the colours that will fit in, and I just sit and I hold each piece over the page in all the different places until I get a selection that I like and just seems pleasing to me. I'm sort of waiting for that moment. I put the piece of paper on the page, take it away, try another one, and at some point you get a little click of like, oh, that looks quite nice. And as soon as you get that, just stop and just decide, right, that's going there, and then move on to the next thing. And that's basically it. Just enjoy it and have fun. So we'll just go through the pages now and I'll just show you what went where. I stuck a few on this sort of introduction page because I had the space to do that. I've left these blank still. I've got some magazine, I think there's a wallpaper advert I've stuck on that page. Nothing on those two. Cupboards on there. Little bottle of cider on that page. So I'm not putting tons and tons on because I know that I also have washi tape and I have stickers to come. So, you know, I don't want to completely fill the pages with all the collage ephemera, but it's just fun to put a few pieces in. And it does look nice, I think. I think it looks really cute, but at the same time, it's just a really relaxing exercise to do. And that's part of the thing, really. It's not just the finished product that I'm aiming for, it's the process of actually just doing it. It's just really relaxing to cut things out and to stick them down. So let me know in the comments how you feel about doing collages from magazines and books. Do you have any tips? Do you have any really, really good sources? So like my almanac, do you have any like really, really good magazines? Any magazines you prefer to use? And how do you feel about cutting them up? Because like I said earlier, there's some things I still feel a little bit, oh, I don't know about cutting them up. They're a bit too precious, but they're so pretty. So yeah, let me know what you think about the whole thing, and I will be back soon with the next part in the series, which is going to be using up washi tapes and using up some very, very cute illustrated postage stamps that I got from Japan. So yeah, I hope you'll join me for that. I hope you're enjoying this series of videos. I am starting to question why I made so many of them. I mean, I could have done one very large video and put every single stage in it. I think I just felt that if you struggle with doing this, if you struggle with filling the gaps and filling blank pages, sometimes the task itself, especially if you have a lot of blank pages, is very overwhelming. And breaking it down into steps, so, you know, rather than doing one page a day and doing all of the things on the page, so doing background, doing washi tape, doing journaling, it's sometimes easier to break it down by stage, so by media, as it were. And I think, well, for me, certainly it makes it a lot easier to just do one thing, concentrate on one thing. So next time I'm going to just concentrate on washi tape, and I just get all my washi tapes out and I just go through my book, keep flipping the pages, keep putting a little bit down. And that process is a lot quicker, I think, and a lot more relaxing, because you start to get into the swing of it. You get into the swing of the washi tapes. You don't have to sort of start afresh on every page. I hope I'm explaining myself. I'm really struggling with doing these voiceovers. I've been waking up very early, several days in a row to do them, and I'm starting to feel like what I'm saying is not making any sense. So I hope it does. And I hope you're enjoying them, and I hope you are enjoying filling up your journals if that's what you're doing while you're playing the video. So I will leave you here, and I will be back for the rest of the series very shortly. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.